The moment he stepped onto the stage, nobody noticed him at first. The lights were too bright, the audience too loud, the judges distracted with papers and whispers. But if you looked closely, you would see his hands shaking slightly, his shoulders stiff, and his eyes scanning the crowd as if he were searching for one familiar face to hold onto. This was the moment that could change his life forever or break him completely. And before this story ends, you'll understand why millions would later say, this was not just a performance, this was a miracle. So stay with me till the end, and if this story touches your heart even a little, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, because stories like this deserve to be shared. His name was Miguel Santos, a young Filipino man who grew up in a small coastal town where dreams often drowned before they reached the shore. His father was a fisherman, his mother a street food vendor, and music was never considered a real future. But from the time Miguel was a child, there was one voice that followed him everywhere, the voice of Elvis Presley. On an old, scratched CD borrowed from a neighbor, Miguel heard "Can't Help Falling in Love" for the first time, and something inside him awakened. He didn't understand English fully, but he understood the emotion. The pain, the hope, the vulnerability. It felt like Elvis was singing directly to his soul. Miguel sang quietly at first. He sang while helping his mother prepare food at dawn, while mending nets with his father, while walking alone by the sea. Singing became his escape, his secret comfort. But life was not gentle with him. When he was 16, his father passed away in a storm at sea. Overnight, Miguel became the man of the house. Dreams were pushed aside, replaced by responsibility, fear, and survival. Many nights, he would hold back tears while humming Elvis songs, wondering if dreaming was selfish when his family needed him to be strong. Years later, a friend showed him a clip of America's Got Talent. Bright lights, massive crowds, judges who could change lives with a single word. One judge stood out to him, Simon Cowell. Honest, feared, respected. Miguel laughed nervously and said, "If I ever sang there, I think I would faint before finishing one line." But that thought never left him. It followed him into sleepless nights and long workdays. Finally, after months of inner battles, he made a decision that terrified him more than poverty ever had. He would audition. The journey to the audition was not easy. He borrowed money, sold his old phone, and practiced endlessly in small rented rooms. Fear became his constant companion. Fear of failing. Fear of being laughed at. Fear of dishonoring his family. On the day of the audition, standing backstage, Miguel felt like a little boy again. His throat tightened. His chest felt heavy. He whispered a prayer in Filipino, asking only for strength, not fame. When his name was called, he walked out under the lights. Simon Cowell barely looked up at first. The audience clapped politely. Miguel introduced himself in a soft, trembling voice, mentioning he was from the Philippines and that Elvis was his greatest inspiration. Simon raised an eyebrow slightly, a mix of curiosity and skepticism. "Whenever you're ready," Simon said. Miguel closed his eyes. For a brief second, he almost walked off. Fear screamed inside him. But then he remembered his mother's tired smile, his father's sacrifices, and that small boy singing by the sea. He took a deep breath and began. The first note was shaky. The second was stronger. And then something changed. It was as if fear melted into emotion. His voice carried pain, love, and years of unspoken struggle. The room grew quiet. The audience leaned forward. Simon looked up, fully this time. His expression shifted from doubt to surprise. Miguel wasn't just copying Elvis, he was feeling him. Each lyric sounded lived in, honest, raw. Halfway through the song, tears rolled down Miguel's face, but his voice did not break. Instead, it grew more powerful. The audience erupted into applause before he even finished. When the final note faded, there was a moment of silence and then thunder. The crowd stood. Judges clapped. Simon Cowell remained seated for a second longer, staring at Miguel as if trying to understand what he had just witnessed. Finally, Simon spoke. "I did not expect that," he said honestly. "You came out here scared, and I could see it. But what you did with that fear, that was extraordinary. For Miguel, those words felt heavier than any trophy. They validated years of quiet suffering. Miguel advanced in the competition, but more importantly, his story traveled across the world. People saw themselves in him, the fear, the doubt, the hidden talent waiting for one brave moment. He became a symbol of hope, not because he was perfect, but because he was real. By the end of his journey, Miguel understood something powerful: fear doesn't disappear when you chase your dreams. You carry it with you. But if you sing through it, walk through it, believe through it, fear can transform into strength. And that is why this story matters. Somewhere right now, someone is holding back their dream because they're afraid of failing, of being judged, of not being enough. If Miguel's voice could shake Simon Cowell, then your courage can shake your world too. If this story inspired you, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories that remind us why dreams are worth fighting for. Because sometimes, all it takes is one fearful step onto the stage to change everything. The first thing people noticed was not his voice. It was the silence around him. As he stood under the blinding stage lights, the roaring crowd slowly faded into a tense hush, the kind of quiet that feels heavy in your chest. His fingers trembled near the microphone, his lips slightly parted, yet no sound came out. In that moment, fear wrapped itself around him like a shadow. Millions watching would later say they felt that fear through their screens. And before this story ends, you'll understand why this frightened Filipino singer would shock Simon Cowell and touch hearts across the world. So stay with me till the very end, and if this story moves you, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, because stories of courage deserve to be heard. His name was Daniel Reyes, born and raised in a humble barangay in the Philippines where houses stood close together and dreams often felt far apart. Daniel grew up surrounded by noise, vendors calling out prices, children laughing in narrow streets, radios playing old love songs, but inside him was a quiet world filled with doubts. His father worked overseas as a construction laborer, sending money when he could. His mother cleaned houses, leaving early and coming home exhausted. Daniel learned early that survival came before passion. Music entered his life accidentally. One evening, during a neighborhood gathering, an old man played an Elvis Presley cassette on a battered player. The sound was imperfect, warped by time, but Daniel froze. There was something in Elvis's voice, lonely yet powerful, that reached straight into his heart. He didn't understand the lyrics fully, but he understood the feeling. From that day on, Daniel searched for Elvis songs wherever he could, replaying them in his head while lying on the floor of their small home, staring at the cracked ceiling. Daniel never sang loudly. He was afraid someone would laugh. He sang quietly while washing dishes, while walking alone, while lying awake at night. Singing became his secret companion. At school, he was shy, often overlooked. Teachers described him as polite but invisible. Inside, however, emotions burned. Music was the only place where he felt seen. When Daniel was 15, tragedy struck. His father lost his job overseas and returned home broken, ashamed, and angry at the world. The house filled with tension. Arguments replaced laughter. Daniel stopped dreaming. He told himself singing was childish, useless. But every time he tried to let go, Elvis's voice pulled him back. Years passed. Daniel worked odd jobs, helping his family survive. One night, while scrolling through videos on a borrowed phone, he stumbled upon a clip from America's Got Talent. A singer stood on a massive stage, judges watching closely, lives changing in minutes. Daniel watched as Simon Cowell criticized, praised, and sometimes crushed dreams with honesty. Fear gripped him, but so did hope. A dangerous thought formed in his mind: what if I tried? That thought haunted him. He argued with himself endlessly. You're not good enough. You'll embarrass yourself. You don't belong there. But another voice, softer yet persistent, whispered, what if you do? After months of inner struggle, Daniel made the bravest decision of his life. He would audition. Telling his family was harder than the decision itself. His mother looked worried. His father stayed silent. Money was tight, and the idea felt unrealistic. But something in Daniel's eyes, something desperate yet determined, made them agree. They borrowed money. Daniel practiced relentlessly, sometimes losing his voice, sometimes crying in frustration. Fear never left. The lights were too bright, the silence too loud, and the fear too real. As he stood alone on the massive stage, his shadow stretched across the floor like a reminder of everything he was afraid to be and everything he secretly hoped to become. His breath was uneven, his chest tight, and for a moment it felt like the world had stopped just to watch him struggle. Millions would later replay this exact second again and again, saying they felt his fear through the screen. And before this story ends, you will understand why this trembling Filipino singer didn't just perform a song, but changed his destiny forever. So stay with this story until the end, and if it moves you even a little, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, because stories like this are meant to inspire, not disappear. His name was Gabriel Gabe Alonzo Cruz, born in a small town in the Philippines where dreams were often whispered instead of spoken aloud. His family lived in a modest home with thin walls that couldn't keep out the noise of the outside world or the worries of the inside one. His father worked long hours as a tricycle driver, his hands rough, his back always aching. His mother sold homemade snacks in the local market, smiling at customers even when her feet hurt and her heart was tired. Life was not cruel, but it was heavy. Gabe learned early that hope had to be quiet. When he was a child, he would sit by the window in the evening, listening to the radio while doing homework under a flickering light. One night, a voice came through the static, deep, emotional, aching with longing. It was Elvis Presley. Gabe didn't know who he was, didn't understand all the words, but he felt something shift inside him. That voice felt lonely and powerful at the same time, like someone brave enough to feel everything. From that night on, Elvis became more than a singer to Gabe. He became a companion. Gabe sang softly, almost secretly. He sang while sweeping the floor, while walking to school, while lying awake at night staring at the ceiling. Music became the place where he could say things he didn't know how to explain. But fear always followed him. Fear of being laughed at. Fear of being told to stop dreaming. Fear of disappointing his family, who needed him to be practical, not hopeful. At school, Gabe was quiet and observant. Teachers often forgot he was there. Classmates didn't bully him, but they didn't notice him either. He wasn't the smartest or the strongest. He was just there until he sang. During a small school program, someone pushed him to join a group performance. His knees shook, his voice trembled, but when he sang, something magical happened. For a few minutes, people listened. Really listened. But afterward, fear returned. That was just luck, he told himself. Don't get carried away. When Gabe was 17, his world cracked. His father got into an accident that left him unable to work for months. Medical bills piled up. The house felt smaller, heavier. Gabe took on part-time jobs, giving up dreams without ever officially saying goodbye to them. Singing became something he did only when he was alone, almost like a memory of a happier version of himself. Years passed like this. Responsibility replaced imagination. Fear replaced hope. Until one night, scrolling through videos on his phone, Gabe stumbled upon a clip from America's Got Talent. A contestant stood on a giant stage, facing judges who could crush dreams with honesty. Simon Cowell's face appeared serious, sharp, intimidating. Gabe laughed nervously. I could never do that, he whispered. But the thought stayed. It followed him to work. It followed him to bed. It followed him into his prayers. The idea terrified him more than failure ever had. And maybe that's why it mattered. After months of arguing with himself, Gabe made a decision that felt impossible. He would audition. Telling his parents was painful. His mother worried about money. His father worried about reality. Dreams don't pay bills, his father said quietly, not unkindly. Gabe nodded, but something inside him refused to let go. They borrowed money they didn't have. Gabe practiced until his voice cracked, then practiced some more. Fear sat beside him every night, reminding him of everything that could go wrong. The audition day arrived faster than he expected. Backstage, Gabe felt invisible again. Other contestants laughed confidently, warming up their voices without fear. Gabe sat alone, clutching a small photo of his family. His heart pounded so hard he thought it might betray him. When his name was called, his legs nearly gave out. The stage was overwhelming. Lights blinded him. The audience felt endless. Simon Cowell looked bored, flipping through notes. Gabe introduced himself softly, his accent thick, his hands shaking. He mentioned he was from the Philippines and that Elvis Presley inspired him. Simon looked up briefly, skeptical but curious. "What are you going to sing?" Simon asked. Gabe swallowed. "An Elvis song," he said. Simon leaned back. "Whenever you're ready." Gabe closed his eyes. Fear screamed at him to stop. His throat tightened. His mind went blank. For one terrifying second, he thought he would fail completely. Then he remembered his mother's tired smile, his father's silent sacrifices, and the boy who sang by the window just to feel alive. He took a breath and sang. The first note was fragile. His voice shook. The fear was still there. But he didn't stop. As the song continued, his voice found strength. Emotion poured into every word. He wasn't performing, he was confessing. Years of fear, responsibility, loss, and hope flowed through his voice. The room changed. The audience leaned forward. The judges exchanged glances. Simon Cowell's expression shifted from doubt to focus. Gabe wasn't copying Elvis. He was honoring him, using his music to tell his own story. Halfway through the song, tears rolled down Gabe's face. His hands trembled, but his voice soared. He sang like someone who had nothing left to hide. When the final note faded, silence filled the room. Then the explosion. The audience stood, clapping, cheering, some wiping away tears. The judges applauded. Gabe stood frozen, overwhelmed. Simon Cowell stayed quiet for a moment, studying him. When he finally spoke, his words were calm but powerful. "I could see how scared you were," Simon said. "But fear didn't stop you, it pushed you. And that's rare. That was honest. That was brave." Gabe broke down. For the first time in his life, he felt truly seen. The competition wasn't easy after that. Pressure grew. Expectations increased. Fear returned again and again. Some performances were better than others. Critics appeared. Doubt crept back in. But something inside Gabe had changed. He no longer sang to prove himself. He sang to speak his truth. People around the world connected with his journey. Messages poured in from viewers who felt invisible, afraid, unheard. They saw themselves in him. He became more than a contestant. He became a reminder that fear doesn't mean weakness, it means you care. Even when the competition ended, Gabe's story didn't. He returned home changed. Not rich. Not famous. But brave. He sang openly now. Children gathered. Neighbors listened. His parents watched with pride. Fear still lived inside him. But it no longer ruled him. And that is the heart of this story. Dreams don't come without fear. They come with it. But if you face it, if you sing through it, if you take that one terrifying step forward, your life can change in ways you never imagined. If you are watching this and holding back your dream because you're afraid, remember Gabe. Remember that a frightened Filipino singer stepped onto the biggest stage in the world and shocked Simon Cowell not by being perfect, but by being real. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs courage today. Because sometimes, all it takes is one fearful voice and one brave moment to turn fear into destiny.